Furious world leaders are freezing Donald Trump and the United States out of critical alliances that are forming transnationally. So over the past 24 hours, there was a major Canadian-Nordic summit that took place in Oslo, Norway. You had Prime Minister Carney. Then you also had the Prime Ministers of Norway, and Denmark, and Finland, Iceland, and Sweden. And they all were complimenting Carney for standing up against Donald Trump and his despicable regime. Maple Meidas, elbows up, how Canada has united the entire world against the Trump regime, or I should say the entire free world, with Carney taking the lead. I want to show you, as Mette Frederiksen, the Prime Minister of Denmark, what she had to say as she talked about how Carney's been such a powerful voice standing up for Denmark and its territory, Greenland, against Donald Trump's threats and attacks. Watch the Prime Minister of Denmark, Mette Frederiksen, for yourself right here. Let's play this clip.
And I have to say to you that you have a lot of supporters in our countries. Mm-hmm. The speech you gave in Davos, I have never experienced anything like this. I mean, people in Denmark, and I guess the same goes for the rest of the Nordic countries, have been talking about, they have been reading your speech. And I don't think I have ever heard so many reflections on a speech from a colleague as I have heard about your speech in Davos. And it is because you show leadership. You were talking about how democracies can work together and that we have to connect even closer in this world where the old world order is gone. And it will probably not come back. So we have to build something new. And it has to be a world order that is built on the values that we represent, the leaders standing in front of you today. I am very grateful, I have to say this, for all the help we have received in the Kingdom of Denmark, Greenland and Denmark. We have had a totally unacceptable pressure from US and the US president. It has been very difficult for the people in Greenland to experience this. And one of the reasons why we have been able to stand firmly on very common values, that you have to respect sovereign states, that you have to respect a people's right for self-determination, is because of our good friends in the Nordic countries, in Europe, but also with partners outside, especially you, Mark. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for that. Now we have to continue our work. We are deepening our cooperation in the Arctic region. It is important. We are deepening our cooperation also militarily in our own region, not only the Arctic, but also more locally in the northern part of Europe. It's going I think, in the right direction. But with everything going on now, with the war going on in Ukraine, US, unfortunately, lifting up sanctions on Russia, a war in Middle East, countries like ours have to stand together. We have to stick together and we have to work together. And that is what we have committed ourselves to do once again. So thank you, Jonas, for convening this meeting today.
Next, I will share with you the Prime Minister of Norway, Jonas Gahr Støre. Here he is right here, talking about how, you know what, when it comes to Donald Trump's unlawful war against Iran, we didn't start this thing. This isn't our war. You see all of us standing here. This isn't our war. Obviously, we're impacted by it. But Donald Trump's realizing how things can quickly spiral out of control. Here, let's play the Prime Minister of Norway. Here, play this clip.
I think we are not part of this war. We did not initiate it. But we are all affected by it. So I think there's a clear call here that international law must be respected. And it should be the responsibility of the concerned parties to find ways of ending the hostilities that now have great impact around the world. We are concerned to see that there is still an escalation. There are still worries about how the world economy will be affected by the energy situation around the Gulf. For our part, we will use any channel we have, any opportunity we have to urge the parties to find a way that will not escalate this war. I think that's what we can say. It is not our war. It seems to us that the plan for how it will develop is pretty unclear. And that's the danger with initiating wars, that they rarely follow a script.
More from the Prime Minister of Norway here, going after Donald Trump for his threats against Greenland and how utterly unacceptable they are as an attack on NATO, as an attack against Denmark. Here, watch for yourself. Let's play it.
Prime Minister Fredriksen gave praise to the speech that Prime Minister Carney gave. Let me give praise to the way the Danish Prime Minister has stood up for some principles which are absolutely key. For Denmark, for the Kingdom of Denmark, for the people in Greenland, is for them to decide on what happens in the Kingdom of Denmark. But what she has stood up for is much more than that. It is for basic principles of international law, national sovereignty, and territorial integrity, which is not simply language in school books. This is hardcore realities of how we preserve freedom, democracy, and we have stood by these principles because we are close to Denmark in this Nordic family, but also because it really matters to all of us. And I'd like to also to say that this is responding to threats which are unacceptable in general, but even more unacceptable among allies. But I would say what follows from this is also a great range of opportunities, which we have discussed around the table today. That our countries have things that we can do together, that we will do together, because it's really beneficial for our populations, for their work, for their income, for their security. And meetings like the one we've had today is really helping us to launch on that path.
I do want to also point out that in the past 24 to 48 hours, Donald Trump was also rebuked by Pope Leo XIV again. Pope Leo XIV, who's actually the first American pope, he hasn't shied away from calling Donald Trump out. So days after, and by the way, hat tip to Christopher Hale for his really good reporting on this. He always does very good reports. Days after Pete Hegseth said the United States war in Iran is protected by God, Pope Leo XIV denounced those who, quote, involve the name of God in choices of death. God cannot be enlisted in darkness, Pope Leo XIV said, rebuking Donald Trump, rebuking Hegseth in public. Now let me show you what Prime Minister Carney was saying at this Canada-Nordic summit in Oslo. And one of the things we heard them talk about over and over again are these shared values, developing shared security prerogatives, and how these nations from Canada to Nordics to the European Union can come together against the United States, and form new security pacts without Donald Trump. Watch what Prime Minister Carney had to say. Very powerful words indeed. Play this clip.
A group of countries that share common purpose, shared values, and a capacity to work with others. Capacity to work with others, this grouping, informal grouping, but also in more formal groupings, such as the Arctic Council, in NATO, in the Coalition of the Willing. And this is important because we are all facing a growing list of challenges, challenges to Arctic security, challenges that come from the changing nature of warfare, challenges which interact with changing technologies and conflicts, both actual and virtual, that are moving closer to all of us. As Prime Minister just said, and as our discussion reflected, security is moving beyond traditional areas of energy security, food security, and of course defense security into core strategic capacities driven by the changing nature of our economy. So critical minerals, artificial intelligence, space, all aspects of digital infrastructure. And what we see is, as our economies and our expertise is a large degree of complementarity between us. And so what we've been discussing is how we can work together in order to increase our own strategic autonomy, increase our resilience, but also to solve immediate issues in terms of jobs, employment, and do so in a way that is consistent with our values on sustainability. So it's core to Canada's strategic interests to work together with this group.
Now, look, this is super important. If you used Medicare.gov to get Medicare Advantage plan information, you may want to double check your plan. The provider directory had inaccurate information on it, and it's possible you signed up for a plan that doesn't actually cover your existing doctors. Listen, folks, it's easy to choose the wrong Medicare plan, and unfortunately, Medicare mistakes can cost you thousands of dollars. That's why we partner with Chapter. When you need to choose a Medicare plan, call them. They're the only national advisor that compares and recommends every Medicare plan across Medicare Supplement, Medicare Advantage, and Part D. And they've helped people save over $1,100 on healthcare costs. In fact, they've helped hundreds of you in the MeidasTouch community save thousands and get better coverage. These guys won't push you to buy a plan you don't want to, and their support is completely free. So if you're on Medicare or will be soon, call them at 82 Medicare. They'll help you understand enrollment options and find ways to save on your healthcare. Again, call them at 82 Medicare. Then we heard from the Prime Minister of Iceland. Here's what she had to say, and I thought, again, it was a very powerful moment right here. Listen to the Prime Minister of Iceland. Let's play it.
And I would like to echo what the previous Prime Ministers have said. I think there's a lot of not just leaders out there, but also general publics in a lot of different countries around the world that are very thankful for the leadership Canada has shown over the past few months. I think definitely there has been sort of a void that has to be filled when it comes to global leadership. These are obviously, difficult times in a way, but there are also opportunities that come from this. It's not the first time in history where shifts have taken place. And I think this is a strong group of countries that can show that we can do this from a position of strength, build sort of new communities of investments, but also opportunities. And I think Arctic is a very important region in that aspect. Iceland has obviously felt the pressure and felt the sort of shift in action around us. We've been worried about Greenland. We're obviously worried in general about the situation in Europe when it comes to Ukraine. But we're not afraid. We see this also as a way to sort of shift alliances in the sense that, even though we're not closing anyone off, we're also just sort of broadening our scheme. And I think this group joining together with Canada shows that there are great opportunities out there. There are silver linings to these types of events. The focus for NATO, for example, has been brought up north. The discussions about Arctic security, Arctic opportunity, economic integration is also more relevant today, and Iceland is going to be a big player in that area. So we welcome any type of cooperation, and I think this group shows that you can show up with a calm and collected front through times like this. We don't always have to be reactionary, and this is one of the things that we discussed, and I'm looking forward to seeing some concrete measures coming out of this and deliverables.
Then we heard from the Prime Minister of Finland. Here's what the Prime Minister of Finland had to say. Let's play it.
It is important for Finland to further deepen cooperation with Canada and our fellow Nordic countries. We are committed to building our partnership. This meeting is an important step on that path. We are united by our shared values and our northern location. We are committed to supporting Ukraine. We are committed to strengthening Arctic security. We need to have a strong NATO in the Arctic. Canada and the Nordic countries have made significant investments in our capabilities in the Arctic. With our shared Arctic expertise, we can also support our allies to develop their capabilities. Thank you very much.
More from the Prime Minister of Norway. Here's what he had to say.
We are stronger together, and we have addressed today issues which really are critical to all of us. We are Arctic nations, and the Arctic perspective when it comes to security, how are we going to look after that security inside the transatlantic alliance, how we are going to secure critical dependencies of our economies as we develop our societies further, how we are going to protect our values as open, liberal, modern democracies in a world where autocratic forces are moving ahead and are weaponizing critical resources. These are issues that matter to our countries. I'm particularly happy that we can do a Nordic-Canadian convention here. And we have agreed to follow up this meeting and to be more concrete on what we really can do together as six, but also as we bring these critical issues into the agendas beyond the six. There is the European Union on the European side. There's an upcoming NATO summit. We have work going on in WTO in the United Nations. And we believe that these six countries are not weak countries. They are strong countries in terms of their values, in terms of their determination. And we are ready to follow up from discussion you have seen in our common statement today.
And this is the Prime Minister of Sweden right here. Let's play this clip of the Prime Minister of Sweden.
I do agree, and it's really great to see the most Nordic country outside the Nordics in a meeting in the Nordics. So really great to see you here. I think it's a sign of our time, honestly, that the Nordic Five and Canada is working so well together. It proves your case. Middle powers make big difference. And it goes for geography, obviously, the Arctic not least, Ukraine, the rules-based world order, technology, and trade. So I think we have so many similarities, and we need to be more proactive and be more forward-leaning. And I think that has been the theme for this meeting today. So thank you so much.
Now, I'll just show you what others are saying across the world. This is a Kuwaiti analyst. Like, this is what they're talking about in Kuwait right now. And I show you this purely so you can get perspective on the types of discussions happening throughout the world. Like, these Kuwaiti analysts and business people are like, all right, we were bribing Donald Trump. We were doing all these quid pro quos, these pay-for-play scams, because we believed we were getting security guarantees from Donald Trump. But instead, he's just engulfed the entire Middle East into these wars. We got no protection, and all we got was war. And now the Middle East is on fire because of Donald Trump. I mean, look at what's going on in the United Arab Emirates. Abu Dhabi, Dubai, destroyed, right? And think about all the Qatar, Doha, Qatari jets, Trump buildings, Trump Doha, Trump Abu Dhabi, Trump Saudi, Trump Dubai, all the stuff. Donald Trump screwed them over. But this is what Donald Trump's done his whole life with his creditors, with contractors, and now he's just doing it in the Middle East and with our allies, you know, and other places also. Listen to what this Kuwaiti analyst had to say here. Play this clip.
We need to know that you cannot appease Zionists. Mm-hmm. You cannot buy influence. Mm-hmm. Look at Jared Kushner. We know how much he took from the Gulf. It's open source public info. And now the same countries that gave him all that money for zero return are facing strikes and bombs. And they're trying to make it seem as if it is our duty to carry on the job that Israel wants to continue, which is a very crazy idea to begin with. So we need to change the way we think how we can influence Washington.
And then one after another, we heard country after country reiterating what we heard the Prime Minister of Norway saying right there, which is, we ain't getting involved in the Strait of Hormuz. Go away, Donald. The Japan's Prime Minister Takaishi said, Japan's not even considering sending any naval forces into the Strait of Hormuz. Go away. You had Germany's Foreign Minister Johann Wedful say, we ain't doing it. It was not effective to send our ships or to do missions in the Red Sea, so we're certainly not going into the Strait of Hormuz. You had Australia saying, we ain't doing it. Nation after nation saying, go away, Donald. This is your war. Yes, it affects us all, but go away. We ain't doing this. I mean, French President Emmanuel Macron spoke directly to Pezeshkian. By the way, France has also talked about growing its nuclear arsenal as well. So one of the things that we're seeing also as part of these transatlantic, trans-Pacific relationships that freeze out the United States, France is going to be taking the lead in developing its nuclear arsenal. That's going to be for the benefit of this alliance that's going to cut the U.S. out. They're all kind of taking their parts right here. And Carney's really managing this whole thing. I mean, it's very brilliant. Carney's bringing together the Pacific and the Atlantic together. And I've been saying that for a while now, even before this war broke out. I'll share with you as well what the foreign minister of Iran's posting, saying that like Donald Trump's out there saying that Iran's negotiating with him now and that we want a ceasefire. He's like, no, we don't. We absolutely don't. This is what Foreign Minister Araghchi told CBS. Iran has neither sought a truce nor talks. Such claims are delusional. He says our powerful armed forces will keep firing until Trump realizes that the illegal war he's imposing on both Americans and Iranians is wrong and must never be repeated. Victims must also be compensated. And Donald Trump's out there posting this. Trump told the Financial Times yesterday that NATO nations face a very bad outlook if they fail to seriously aid in efforts to open the Strait of Hormuz amidst the ongoing conflict. Really? Because, first off, didn't you claim that these countries agreed to go to the Strait of Hormuz? So you lied about that. Now you're saying they're going to face grave consequences. Then Donald Trump's also out there saying, well, I may have to cancel my trip to China if they don't help in the Strait of Hormuz. Dude, China is allied with Iran. Get that through your head. China doesn't want to help you. Like, do you understand the most basic way this relationship is China, Russia, Iran, North Korea? You don't see that. In any event, then I'll just leave you with this. If you just listen to what the foreign minister Araghchi is out there saying, he's saying very publicly over this weekend on MS Now. The dude's on MS Now. He's been making appearances on ABC, MS Now, NBC. And here's what he has to say. He goes, Russia and China are our strategic partners. Here's what he has to say. Here, play this clip.
Well, Russia and China are our strategic partners, and we have had close cooperation in the past, which still continues, and that includes military cooperation as well. I'm not going into any details of that. A good cooperation with these two countries. Politically, economically, even militarily.
There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.